This is East Asia Tonight.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jill Newbronner, and here are tonight's top stories. Digesting the DeepSeek delirium. The Chinese startup's lower cost, lower energy AI model roils the tech world and financial markets. A wake-up call, says the US president, while rivals say they need to deliver much better bots. Getting to know the man behind the disruption. We look at 40-year-old Liang Wenfeng, who's put the biggest names in business on notice. In East Asia, AI players and initiatives are playing catch-up with their Western counterparts. China's ahead, but South Korea and Japan are hoping to bridge that gap. Also ahead, direct flights between China and India are back after a 5-year pause. Beijing's calling it a new beginning with Delhi after years of strain over the disputed Himalayan border. And later on East Asia Tonight, Beijing taps into ice and snow tourism to fire up the economy. The approach appears to be working very well, but it's not without challenges. And Hong Kong's flower markets blossom ahead of the Year of the Snake, and we'll tell you why. The head of OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, is vowing to deliver what he calls much better models after Chinese startup DeepSeek's advances appeared to undermine the US lead in the global artificial intelligence race. Sam Altman had earlier called the Chinese startup's product impressive and said it was invigorating to have a new competitor. But Mr. Altman says there is a need for more computing power. He's appearing to push back on the idea that future AI developments could cost less. Now, DeepSeek claims to use fewer AI chips than rivals. Some reports say DeepSeek is 90% cheaper than OpenAI and works twice as fast. In just 1 week, the R1 model has overtaken ChatGPT in downloads to become the top-rated free AI app on the Apple App Store. Now, DeepSeek is believed to have used some 2,000 NVIDIA H800 chips designed to comply with U.S. export controls. Shares in major U.S. tech firms tumbled as the industry took stock of the DeepSeek challenge. A chip giant NVIDIA's shares fell 17%, wiping out $589 billion of value in just 1 day. But NVIDIA says this shows the importance of its chips for Chinese AI. The US-based company says it is optimistic that more of its chips will be needed to meet demand. Now, US President Donald Trump has called DeepSeek's strong showing a, quote, wake-up call, and that it could threaten America's AI dominance.
The release of DeepSeek AI from a Chinese company should be a wake-up call for our industries that we need to be laser-focused on competing to win, because we have the greatest scientists in the world. Even Chinese leadership told me that. They said, you have the most brilliant scientists in the world in Seattle and various places. But Silicon Valley, they said, there's nobody like those people. This is very unusual when you hear a DeepSeek, when you hear somebody come up with something. We always have the ideas. We're always first.
A research paper released in December says the DeepSeek chatbot cost just under $6 million to develop, but top AI labs in the US say this was only for the app's final training run, not the full cost of development. They say the Chinese startup likely spent more. The DeepSeek chatbot also appears to be unable to answer questions about issues considered politically sensitive in China, like Taiwan and Tiananmen. China's national cybersecurity rules say generative AI must not have content that violates the country's core socialist values. So, just what is DeepSeek? Well, it's an advanced AI model developed by a startup founded in 2023 in Hangzhou, China. The AI assistant stands out for being free, unlimited, and open source. Now, that means anyone can access its code and see how it works and modify it themselves. Now, it's powered by DeepSeek V3 model, which the company's researchers say was trained for less than $6 million, a fraction of the money spent by its American rivals. Now, that claim, though, has been disputed by some analysts. However, it's the other model called DeepSeek R1, released to the public on the same day as Donald Trump's inauguration, that has rattled nerves on Wall Street. DeepSeek researchers, in a paper published last week, claimed that the model shows advanced reasoning skills, such as the ability to rethink its approach to a math problem. The company also says that R1 is 20 to 50 times cheaper to use than similar models sold by OpenAI, depending on the task. Now, venture capitalist Mark Anderson, a close advisor to Trump, has called DeepSeek R1 AI's Sputnik moment, and that's a reference to the 1957 satellite launch by the Soviet Union that sparked a Cold War space race. Now, DeepSeek's rapid rise is also being noticed in China. State media Xinhua reported that the startup's founder, Liang Wenfeng, was at a symposium hosted by Premier Li Qiang. The very same day, the DeepSeek R1 model was released. Now, his presence there is being seen by some as a potential sign that the company's success could be key to China's goal of overcoming U.S. export curbs on American-designed AI semiconductors. So DeepSeek's rise is now shining the spotlight on its 40-year-old founder. Unlike other tech big shots, Liang is not a Silicon Valley entrepreneur, but comes from a background in finance. After graduating from Zhejiang University, Liang co-founded the quantitative hedge fund Highflyer in 2015. Now, he incorporated AI in his trading strategies to predict market trends and aid investment decisions. In 2021, the Chinese entrepreneur was acquiring thousands of NVIDIA graphics processors before the Biden administration limited U.S. exports of AI chips to China. 2 years later, he launched DeepSeek. It's an offshoot of Highflyer, which continues to fund the AI lab. Well, let's get more analysis now. We're joined by Jinghang Zheng, professor of China and International Studies at Lancaster University. Prof. Zheng, first of all, you've been playing around with DeepSeek a little bit. How has it proven itself to you compared to other AI bots out there? What's good about it and what's not?
Well, I think for my personal use of the generative AI is quite basic. For example, use it to proofread some text, help you correct some grammar mistake, or design some program. For example, you want to design, like for my personal trip, give me a plan of it. So for those personal use of it, at least for myself, I think it's as good as ChatGPT. Its full function still needs to be tested, which is now carrying on by different kind of people on different kind of ways. But I think it's probably too early to say DeepSeek will be better than ChatGPT. But I think at least it's more economic than ChatGPT, and it is free, at least for now.
Absolutely. I do want to talk about cost. The price quoted publicly, the one that we're all hearing, represents the cost for the app's final training run, say some people. The real amount, they say, is far higher. What do you think?
Well, I think it's still very unclear at this stage about the precise cost of it. And I think the current kind of consensus is probably it costs more than what it says is costing, but definitely lower than what has been costing in the US. So regardless of the precise amount, I think it does come a short of how those things can be made a lot more economic than we thought we used to be, because the previous direction of travel was all investing in hardware, in computing power, and threw billions of pounds into the industry and believe that's a direction for success. However, I think the focus of this DeepSeek is telling people you don't have to go that direction to do that. This makes the precise cost of this DeepSeek less important. I think the kind of lesson we draw from is more important.
Right. I hear what you're saying. And because of what you just said, some people out there, including Donald Trump, are calling this a wake-up call commercially for the other big players out there. Do you think that they should be worried about the competition, or is it a case that competition is actually good for the industry?
Well, I think competition definitely is good for the industry, especially if you look at the DeepSeek. It's open to everybody, so you can use that, not adopted by American companies as well. So it's not only exclusive for China. The US can benefit from it for the collective goods of the human society. Having said that, I think the US and China is in kind of very high geopolitical tensions. And when you look at the way they were decoupling of their technology, this does create a lot of anxiety in the US, and many of those anxiety are kind of valid. And imagining if China now control the entire AI ecosystem, they were doing exactly what Biden or Trump want to do to sanction the US access to it. That will create a lot of problem for the US. So what I would say, yes, it will benefit the US, but they are right to be worried. Another geopolitical rivalry to gain major success in AI. And this comes into this kind of US-China global AI race, put us into a classic kind of security dilemma situation.
Well, you very succinctly pointed out the geopolitical aspect of this, but what do you think it does for the overall landscape of AI competition landscape between the countries? I mean, you talked a little bit about the US, but talk to us a bit about Japan, South Korea AI players, those that are closer to home.
Yeah, I think China has been studying about AI development across the world, right? And in one of the study I'm working on, I think that's a result of it. But the main kind of competitor China would think will be the US. So it's a lot more focused on the US. There will be some interesting coming out from Korean, from Japan, from the UK. However, those technology wouldn't be go as advanced as the US because they don't have really the kind of market that you are going to apply those technology to a massive scale. That would be really considered something China wants to become to. So yes, there might be some original kind of technology coming out from those smaller countries, but US will always be the one China is going to focus on. It's the same for the US as well. The US always consider China as a main competitor because of the size of the scale of Chinese economy, the size of Chinese market, and also the kind of data that massively can generate to be there to train the algorithm and to develop the Chinese technology. So I think that the matter of the scale really matters in that regard.
Fascinating insight to a topic I'm sure we'll be talking about for many days to come. Thank you so much, Jinghang Zheng, Professor of China and International Studies at Lancaster University. Coming up on East Asia tonight, the TikTok search for a U.S. buyer to take over operations in America continues. U.S. President Donald Trump confirms one of the big tech firms as a suitor. And Chinese policymakers looking at the 8-day festive period for clues on consumer demand after a flurry of measures to boost consumption. Welcome back, everyone. Olivia Mazuki standing by with the latest on business news. And Olivia, as you said, one word, we're all talking about DeepSeek capturing everyone's imagination, investors as well as tech companies and market watchers.
That's right, Jill. So this Chinese AI startup newcomer has sparked concerns that huge AI investments by U.S. big tech may be unwarranted. Market sell-off triggered by the emergence of a low-cost Chinese AI model weighing on investors' minds today, spurring a global tech stock rout, and ripple effects are being felt from Tokyo to Amsterdam to Silicon Valley. Markets in tech-heavy South Korea and Taiwan are closed for the next few days for Chinese New Year. Mainland China is also closed until February the 4th, leaving the spotlight firmly on Japanese firms. So Tokyo Index heavyweights continuing heavy declines from yesterday. Advantest, a chip testing firm that supplies to NVIDIA, tanking by double digits. Shares of conglomerate SoftBank and chip-making equipment maker Tokyo Electron deep in the red as well. SoftBank is part of the $500 billion AI infrastructure push announced last week by U.S. President Donald Trump. Now, the sell-off expanded to include companies such as Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, Hitachi, and Kawasaki Heavy Industries. Until recently, they had traded higher on the bet that they would benefit from higher overall investment in AI-linked electricity infrastructure. But DeepSeek's claims make investors wonder how much energy AI applications will actually consume. Now, DeepSeek's cheaper AI is sharpening investor scrutiny of the billions of dollars U.S. tech giants are using to develop the technology. NVIDIA lost nearly $600 billion of market value yesterday in a historic fall as Wall Street and Silicon Valley panicked over a perceived threat from the Chinese startup. Collectively, the DeepSeek hype erased close to $1 trillion in U.S. and European technology stocks. NVIDIA tanked nearly 17%, while Microsoft dropped about 2%, and TSMC's U.S.-listed stock tumbled 14%. Billionaires whose fortunes are linked to artificial intelligence were the biggest losers. NVIDIA's Jensen Huang saw his fortune fall around $20 billion. Oracle's co-founder Larry Ellison lost $22.6 billion, and Dell's Michael Dell lost $13 billion. NVIDIA has been at the heart of the AI boom. Its rapid growth and windfall profit have helped push other tech firms to record after record. Soaring valuations for so-called AI hyperscalers, including Meta, Alphabet, and Microsoft, have led to an increase of around $10 trillion in the market value of the so-called Magnificent Seven companies since ChatGPT kicked off the AI boom in November 2022. Experts are now questioning if the current pace of CapEx spend or technology upgrades is necessary after DeepSeek's promise of a much lower-cost AI model. Still, much remains unknown about DeepSeek's claims, including what sort of chips the company had access to despite the effect of the sanctions, and more importantly, if the Chinese startup's technical breakthrough would cool down the AI race or even cut down the funds being poured into it. Now, to help get some clarity on those concerns and DeepSeek's impact on markets specifically, we're joined by Rolf Bulk, equity research analyst at New Street Research. So, Rolf, let's get straight into it. Nearly $1 trillion wiped off from major markets. DeepSeek's latest AI model has triggered some serious rethinking among investors. Some analysts, though, believe that the panic may be overblown. Do you share the same sentiment?
Yes, thanks, Olivia, for having me. Well, to start off with, DeepSeek's announcement is impressive. The model is on par with OpenAI in areas like math and coding, but importantly, it still falls short on topics like general knowledge and the ability to handle random questions. But the real buzz, I think, that we've seen over the weekend and yesterday comes from their pricing strategy. So DeepSeek is only around 10% of the price of OpenAI. We have seen optimization like what DeepSeek is delivering in the past, over the last 1.5 years or so, but none of those other AI studios have priced their product that aggressively. So in our perspective, the differentiator here isn't necessarily the model's performance, but the pricing. And frankly, the performance that they put on the table is expected given the optimization techniques that they've used. I do share the sentiment that probably the market reaction is overdone. We remain optimistic about the potential for the overall sector, and most of that stems from what we see in leading-edge models. So currently for OpenAI, that is the O3 model, which was released around a month ago. And you might recall that model demonstrated near STEM graduate level performance on IQ tests. And that increase in performance was achieved importantly by increasing compute time, so using more GPUs to boost performance. And to us, that remains the simple path forward for truly transformative AI that can be used in data centers or in call centers, assist researchers, act as tutors, and so on. So, DeepSeek's efficiency gains and their pricing might pressure, let's call it the trailing edge of the market, but the real frontier, so building AI with close to human-like intelligence, that still requires ever-growing investments in compute. And the companies best positioned to deliver on that are the major companies in the US.
Okay, Rolf. So when you talk about investment does it have the potential to derail investment scenario for the whole entire AI supply chain, which is driven by high spending from just a small handful of hyperscalers?
In our view, it's very unlikely that those major hyperscalers are going to scale back on investments in the near term, because the potential of bringing to market a frontier model in the coming years that has suprahuman intelligence, I would say, on particular areas of expertise such as physics, such as math, such as coding, software development. The applications for that are endless. And that market opportunity, I think, is too big to pass up on, and it would be too much of a risk to scale down that spending today.
So, Rolf, if DeepSeek's claims prove to be true, what is the path ahead for AI stock valuation in both the US and the rest of the world? Do you see a near-term correction in the frothy sector?
Well, the way that I would think about it is that looking at the fundamentals, last year, 2024, spending on data center GPUs and other chips was around 120 billion or so. If you believe, the capex plans of OpenAI, of Microsoft, of Google, etc., that spending will grow from 120 to 500 billion in 2029, so in a 5-year period. In that context of that heavy growth, I think that valuations still have some room to expand. Now, NVIDIA is one of the main beneficiaries, of course, but they are not the only ones. As you mentioned, the Japanese supply chain, the Taiwanese supply chain, the Korean supply chain. Here in Asia, there's a number of companies, of course, first and foremost, TSMC, but a very long tail of companies that are heavily exposed to AI. And on balance, taking a general view on the market, we still see upside to valuations.
Rolf, I know this may sound like I'm asking this too soon, but how do you see the long-term impact of DeepSeek's entry into the AI market when advising to your clients? Which camp are you on, optimist or skeptic?
Well, the way that I would position it is that this is more of an evolution than that it is a revolution. Optimization is part of what will make AI models affordable. I mentioned just now the O3 model, which has performance of close to a STEM graduate. That would be very useful, but if I want to run a single test on that model, it would cost me almost $1 million today. So clearly unaffordable for anyone to deploy. Now, if that cost comes down to $10,000 or maybe to $100 over time, it becomes an entirely different topic. All of a sudden, for a lot of companies, for a lot of people, such an AI agent would become affordable and very useful to deploy in everyday business. So for AI to proliferate, we need both the frontier models, so the big models developed by the likes of OpenAI, and we need the companies that optimize and that push the boundaries of efficiency, such as DeepSeek, to make them more cost efficient. That can be done by a single company, but as we see, competitive pressure absolutely helps. So I don't view it as a negative per se. It's a part of the industry as we know it.
Well, sounds like it's a conversation for another day. But for now, thank you so much, Rolf Bulk, Equity Research Analyst at New Street Research. In another story, U.S. President Donald Trump has confirmed that Microsoft is in talks to acquire TikTok, saying he would like to see, quote, a bidding war for the social media app.
We'll see what happens. We're going to have a lot of people bidding on it, and if we can save all that voice and all the jobs, and China won't be involved. You don't want China involved, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
And TikTok has about 170 million American users. It was briefly taken offline earlier this month, just before a law requiring its Chinese parent company, ByteDance, to either sell it on national security grounds or face a ban. Shortly after taking office, Mr. Trump signed an executive order delaying enforcement of the ban by 75 days. Last week, the U.S. president said he was in talks with multiple parties and expects a decision on TikTok's future within 30 days. And the U.S. has been pressuring ByteDance, TikTok's parent company, to divest its U.S. operations, citing risks to Americans' data. Microsoft, TikTok, and ByteDance have not commented on these reported discussions. China is counting on the Chinese New Year festivities to energize its economy, with millions expected to travel, shop, and indulge in leisure activities during the 8-day holiday. The government has introduced subsidies and incentives to drive spending, a critical element in its push for economic recovery. An estimated 9 billion trips are expected to be made during the holiday season, with most opting for road travel and nearly 600 million journeys anticipated by train and air. Airlines have even slashed fares by 5% to compete with the ever-expanding railway network. Shopping centers and e-commerce platforms are abuzz with discounts, and the government allocated an additional $11 billion for subsidies covering items from home appliances to small gadgets. In Shanghai malls, discounts on appliances go up to 35%, while e-commerce apps like Taobao prominently feature government subsidy sections. Leisure spending is also surging. A box office ticket and that sales reached $102 million, already topping last year's levels. They were aided by local governments offering discount coupons for movie tickets and hotels. Economists and investors will be watching closely to see if the holiday spending translates into broader economic momentum. Many expect the government to unveil additional pro-consumption measures at the National People's Congress in March, signaling a continued focus on bolstering domestic demand. And that's all I have in business. Jill, it's back to you.
That is a lot. Thank you so much, Olivia. Still more to come on East Asia tonight. China and India agree to boost communications, political trust, and bring back direct flights. China's top diplomat calls it a new beginning for the two countries. This is East Asia Tonight. Direct flights between China and India are back after a 5-year pause. Beijing's calling it a new beginning, with Delhi after years of strain over the disputed Himalayan border. Digesting the DeepSeek delirium, the Chinese startup's lower-cost, lower-energy AI model roils the tech world and financial markets. A wake-up call, says the US president, while rivals say they need to deliver much better bots. And in East Asia, AI players and initiatives are playing catch-up with their Western counterparts. From the space race to the AI race, governments and private companies around the world are trying to develop infrastructure to allow everyday machines to better perform tasks. Now, the current frontrunner on the AI front is the US. As of last year, Washington's artificial intelligence market size surpassed $146 billion. Now, of the many big tech giants, OpenAI is the most well-known for developing ChatGPT. Asia-Pacific may not be far behind. The size of China's AI sector was estimated at nearly $70 billion in 2023. With more than 1.4 billion people in China, China can generate an incredible amount of data, ranging from facial recognition to natural language processing. Now, China's DeepSeek has just stunned the AI world, but another name to look out for is O1AI. It's a relative newbie founded in 2023 and valued at more than $1 billion. Next, South Korea. Its AI market crossed the $3 billion mark last year. A research group expects this to expand to $30 billion in 9 years. Leading the charge is a company called Rebellions. The South Korea's first AI chip unicorn that was founded in 2020. Samsung Electronics is also a top AI investor in the semiconductor space. Samsung has leveraged AI to optimize chip design and manufacturing processes. Now, Japan's approach to AI is focused on robotics and automation. Some $9 billion has been pumped into AI so far. And the Japanese name to watch out for is chip testing equipment maker Advantest, a supplier of NVIDIA. Also, Sakana AI, a Tokyo R&D firm, has released 3 language models used in chatbots and content generation. The US is still leading the AI race, and Donald Trump has vowed to keep his country at the top. But DeepSeek's relatively low-cost AI model has raised hopes that artificial intelligence need not be dominated by those with the deepest pockets. Well, earlier, we spoke with Kyle Rodder from Capital.com on the impact of the chatbot in the AI world.
It's very early to say at the moment, and as the markets and consumers become a little bit more acquainted with the product, they're already seeing some limitations, whether that be from obviously already outages, dealing with the increased demand for the products and increased usage. There are obviously some doubts about censorship and what that potentially means. And there's, again, like I said before, questions about whether there is true veracity, if you want to call it that, behind some of the numbers that the company has delivered to describe its success. If, for example, it is proven to be true that everything the company is telling us is factual, then yes, this could be incredibly significant, ranging all the way from the tech companies who are selling and building these large language models to companies like NVIDIA, who are obviously selling the chips and have benefited significantly from the demand for their chips. Alternatively, if we see that, maybe it's not all what it's cracked up to be, and maybe it's not quite as competitive, maybe the disruption in the AI space and for the AI developers won't be quite as significant. Alternatively as well, it could also be very beneficial for NVIDIA because all of a sudden we're seeing, the barriers for entry are being lowered because of a lower price for these models, which could, effectively boost demand for chips as, more or less that sort of supply creates its own demand. So it's a very fluid situation at the moment. It could be everything and incredibly significant, or it could be nothing at all. It's still very much in the moment of, time will tell.
In other news, China and India relations appear to be warming up. The Asian giants have agreed to bring back direct flights after a 5-year suspension. The Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi hailed a new beginning with the visiting Indian Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri in Beijing.
是我们在龙年接待的最后一批客人，但是预示着我们将会有一个新的开始。所以我首先对你表示欢迎，并且呢，预祝你这次的磋商能够取得成功，并且能够达成共识。
We are on our way to stabilizing the relationship. I cannot overemphasize the importance of communications between our two countries, and I would like to specifically record the contribution that you personally have made in maintaining these communications at various levels between our two leaderships.
Before the COVID-19 pandemic, there were about 500 direct flights between China and India every month. Reports say Beijing had asked Delhi to resume flights back in June, but the two countries' border dispute weighed on that decision. Relations improved after a series of high-level talks, and that includes a meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Russia last October, on the sidelines of a BRICS summit. Indian Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri's trip to China also saw the two sides agree to an exchange of journalists, the resumption of Indian pilgrimages to Tibet's sacred mountains and lakes, and a promise to maintain communications. Coming up on East Asia tonight, the Korean Peninsula and parts of China blanketed in white as millions celebrate the annual Spring Festival. And Singapore's Prime Minister Lawrence Wong rallies the nation in his first Chinese New Year message since taking office. Hello again. A frigid cold weather gripping East Asia. The Korean Peninsula and China logging sub-zero temperatures and heavy snowfall as millions of people herald the start of a holiday period. South Korea's Jeju Island recorded 120 centimeters of snowfall, with cities such as Chungju and the capital Seoul also hit. Swathes of the country have been under a snow advisory since morning. Authorities are urging people to drive at slower speeds to prevent accidents on major highways. More than 100 flights have been delayed. A thick blanket of snow also covering several regions across North Korea. State media reported South Hamgyong province amassing around 54 centimeters of snowfall. The weather agency says the cold snap is set to persist, especially in the East Coast region. In northern China, authorities have issued the yellow blizzard warning, the second highest in the 4-level warning system. Unprecedented snowfall recorded in Liaoning province led the government to block entrances to expressways. Workers have been dispatched to clear the roads as thousands rush home for family gatherings on Chinese New Year. China, meanwhile, wants to tap on the freezing cold in its north to develop its winter economy into a new growth sector. Authorities expect the size of the industry to reach 1.5 trillion yuan, or about $200 billion by 2030, with annual revenue set to break records this year. The city of Harbin, one of the most popular winter travel destinations, in the world, has been a key driver behind the boom. CNA's Tan Se-hui has more.
Harbin, the capital of Heilongjiang province, is the most well-known city in China for those longing for an icy adventure. During the Spring Festival last year, some 10 million visitors thronged the region, a more than 80% increase from the year before. This year, domestic travelers continue to head up north to admire ice sculptures and to ski.
感受一下哈尔滨的冬天这个寒冷这个程度，想挑战一下。就像你现在看到，人其实贼多，就是这都是来这边就是费用嘛。
It's a winter wonderland for foreign tourists as well, following the introduction of mutual visa-free policies with a long list of countries.
We've been to Shanghai and Beijing, like cities, bigger cities in China. So it's like the usual, just the factories, the skyscrapers, everything. So here, like, I would say it's quite unique and different to the rest.
In December, officials also extended Harbin's visa-free transit policy to 144 hours, up from 72. At the national level, there has been a concerted effort to promote the ice and snow economy.
今天冬天，我们不仅东北、内蒙古、新疆这些地区冰雪消费火热，那么我们上海、湖北、四川等地室内的滑雪场也持续升温，所以我们将持续提升冰雪场地设施数量和公共服务水平，提升这方面的消费。
But with China battling external and internal economic headwinds, concerns are mounting that the expected boom could melt away even before it takes shape. Locals that CNA talked to say that the influx of tourists slowed significantly this year after the rush of revenge travel following the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions.
往年的这个时候，就像我们去吃饭，那餐厅里的30个桌子是同时要坐满，还要排队的。但是今年你看到了，我们去是比较轻松一点的，所以至少我们看到的在旅游团这方面下降了，大概得在40%左右。一个是经济，再一个就是已经封过一次了，它要缓冲一下，所以今年就跟去年比明显，大家都说再没有去年了。
And a bigger challenge looms: climate change. Already, Harbin is feeling the heat. Last year, a warmer autumn delayed freezing temperatures, affecting those working on ice sculptures at the famous Ice and Snow World Festival. Snack vendors selling Harbin's famous frozen pears are also concerned.
真的很怕，就是怕，就是说还没到这个冬天结束之前，就已经就是变暖了。这样的话，我们的水果都会融化，融化了之后，就对销售这一块上肯定是有影响。
But analysts say climate challenges could also lead to new opportunities and solutions, as locals are forced to be creative.
In terms of climate sustainability, that has always been a part of the question for the winter sports and winter economy, but the flip side of it is that how do these areas potentially could incentivize the breakthroughs and innovations in the more renewable aspects of things. And I think China is able to develop this type of ecotourism as well for the winter economy.
Chinese President Xi Jinping once said, lucid waters and lush mountains are invaluable assets, and so are ice and snow. So valuable that the winter economy is expected to break records and rake in more than 630 billion yuan this year in revenue.
The next major event to be held here in Harbin is the 9th Asian Winter Games in February. Local media reports say that foreign travel numbers will increase by around 20%. Tan Sihui, CNA, Harbin.
Over to Hong Kong next, and Chinese New Year flower markets have returned with a bang. Many stall owners have noticed a significant increase in mainland visitors, but decline in spending among local Hong Kong residents. CNA's Mei Wong with this report.
Hong Kong has lined up a whole host of activities for this Chinese New Year. From markets such as this to parades featuring floats as well as performances to usher in the new year. But it's not just to usher in the year of the snake in the Chinese zodiac in a positive manner, but to help encourage spending among the people in order to lift the Hong Kong economy. In addition to that, officials expect some 1.4 million visitors from mainland China to Hong Kong during this Chinese Lunar New Year period, about 15% more than last year. Now, this particular market is the largest out of 15 such markets across Hong Kong. It has about 400 stalls available in this particular market. And as you can see, well, it's not just attracting the locals, but foreigners as well.
The weather's fabulous. We've never experienced anything like this before. And we wanted to generally get, a sort of an immersion, get a feel of the culture. And I think this is just absolutely brilliant. It's so colorful. I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, it is my first visit, and I saw it on Instagram at the Lunar Festival in Victoria Park, and I wanted to come here with my friends. And my family also wanted to come, so just being able to experience that feeling of Chinese New Year and all the residents being happy and walking around.
I came every year, except the COVID time, it was closed. Hong Kong citizen is traditional to come every year for the flower market, and then they came to get the flower and get the atmosphere of the Chinese New Year. Hong Kong people hoping for the economy to be getting better and better again, and everybody will be have a good life, good health, and lucky in everything.
Every day we can walk in the shopping mall, but walking in the flower exhibition is just one time in a year, and then we go here with our family to enjoy the moment.
Stallholders expect a last-minute mad rush just before the first day of Chinese New Year on Wednesday. But after all the sales are done here, many will be anticipating and looking forward to the grand fireworks that'll light up the Hong Kong sky on Thursday, January the 30th. And that's where everyone will be praying and hoping for a more prosperous and a much healthier 2025. Mei Wong, CNA, Hong Kong.
Well, snake motifs ruled this Chinese New Year, and for some, seeing them printed on red packets and banners isn't quite enough. CNA's Yasmin Youngers checks on what's trending snake-wise in Hong Kong and Taiwan.
In Hong Kong's Kowloon district, Chow Ka-ling is known as the city's snake queen. Not just because of the business she owns, but also because authorities get her to catch wild snakes in residential areas. She's the boss of this 60-year-old snake soup shop, set up by her father, the man who taught her not only how to trap these slimy creatures, but also how to defang, slaughter, and make soup out of them. Ms. Chow says the broth can strengthen muscles and bones, especially in winter, when her shop can sell up to 800 bowls a day from about $7 a pop. But in summer, that whittles down by about an eighth. Her worry is fewer people want to try this delicacy after SARS and COVID's links to wild animals. And with older chefs retiring in Hong Kong, Ms. Chow can't be too bullish about her shop's future, but will try to keep her business going for as long as possible.
收咩徒弟啫？你而家都係揸鑊鏟啫嘛，揸鑊鏟大把廚師啦，係嘛？揾唔到食嘅人就唔會有人入行啦。就算啊，將來我啲侄仔入行啊，不如你煲糖水好過啦，拖咩蛇啫？係咪啊？即係咁難做嘅生意唔好做啦，做咗3個月。
So, a test for Hong Kong's food heritage as the city starts the Year of the Snake. But moving eastward to Taiwan, these albino serpents, believed to be auspicious, are trending. At the White Snake Temple in Taoyuan City, visitors have been putting them around their necks to pull in the blessings and ward off bad luck ahead of the Chinese New Year.
因为这是第一次被披挂在这个脖子上面，其实有点第一次蛮紧张，当下蛮紧张，因为很怕它会，就像我们印象中那个毒蛇会咬人这样子，对。但是现在披上，感觉好像也还好，习惯了，对。
It's also inspired this calligrapher's designs.
写春联的过程呢，我民众最喜欢的这个12年，它的金句啊，像12年五春。五春的意思，我们闽南语就叫做春就是钱，就存很多钱，存很多钱的意思。12年五春，其实它12年五春风的意思啦，就是说我们过年呢都可以喜气洋洋每个人都过了一个很好的新年这样子。
The snake is the 6th in the cycle of 12 zodiac animals on the Chinese lunar calendar.
And moving beyond East Asia, Singapore Prime Minister Lawrence Wong says the government is finding ways to better support caregivers and recognise their vital role in strengthening family bonds. In his Chinese New Year message, Mr. Wong says his team is committed to supporting families at every stage of life. He also emphasised the importance of Singaporeans rallying together in times of crisis and recognising the population's diversity. Nicholas Ng has more.
More and cheaper flats are being built for young couples. It's one of the measures Prime Minister Lawrence Wong drew attention to at his first Chinese New Year message. Authorities have also expanded leave arrangements for new parents, who are getting 6 weeks of shared parental leave this year. Schools are also getting more funding, especially preschools. Seniors can also look forward to more support, as can caregivers.
Many Singaporeans juggle multiple caregiving responsibilities, looking after aging parents, young children, or family members with special needs. We deeply appreciate their contributions. The government will find better ways to support caregivers, recognizing their vital role in strengthening family bonds.
Mr. Wong added that the government will do more to help vulnerable families, though he called on the public to do their part by donating, volunteering, and leading social initiatives to build an inclusive society.
Likewise, let us also take this opportunity to celebrate the diversity of our Singapore family. We may have different views on issues that matter deeply to us, but we cannot let our differences pull us apart. We should make an extra effort to engage and reach out to fellow Singaporeans of different races and religions and strengthen our bonds as one Singapore family.
Mr. Wong ended his message noting this Chinese New Year coincides with SG60, a full cycle of life in Chinese culture, and said that it is timely to reflect on the contributions and sacrifices of Singapore's pioneers and to build on their legacy.
Together as one united people, we can keep Singapore a beacon of safety, security, and stability amidst a troubled and volatile world. I wish all Singaporeans a happy, healthy, and prosperous Chinese New Year.
And that's East Asia tonight. Don't forget your headlines anytime at cna.asia. Plus, we're on Facebook and YouTube, and all of you enjoying your reunion dinners. Happy Chinese New Year. Bye-bye.